I like the screensaver.
Nobody's there.
Little putty cat.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the May 21st, 2025 Plastow Planning Board meeting. I'll open this meeting at 6:33. Charlene,
Richard Anthony,
here?
Karen Robinson,
Yep.
Dan Kane,
Here.
Nolan Pelletier,
Present.
Bill Coy is excused.
Excuse.
Oh,
Liz
sorry.
Costa,
Not the jet. Here.
Bush Claire.
Present.
Sorry.
All right. We have a set of minutes. They were emailed previously. You haven't had an opportunity to take a look at them. Look at them now.
Yep.
These are going to be from May 7th. All right. I move to accept the minutes from May 7th, 2025. Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I have to abstain, I wasn't here.
Abstention.
Saying too.
You're abstaining also? So 1, 2, 3?
Four.
Yeah, 4. Where do you get 4?
I'm not a voting.
He's not a voting member.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were.
So was it 3, 2, 0,
You
3, 0,
filled
2?
in For me, though, right?
302.
Yeah,
Right.
3, 0, 2. All right. All right. We have one public hearing that we have on the agenda, PB 2505. All right, the completeness of an application from David Aberry for review of a site plan for the redevelopment of a retail plaza to include a restaurant with a drive-through and continued retail use with landscaping, drainage, parking, and lighting updates. The property is located at 111 Plastow Road, tax map 28, lot 16, in the C1 zoning district. The property owner of record is Plastow Road 111 LLC. If the application is found to be complete, the planning board may immediately conduct a public hearing. All right. All right. All right, so for purposes of moving this on, I'll move to accept the application for an amended site plan for the redevelopment of an existing plaza to include a restaurant for drive-through, as noted in the legal notice PB 2505 for the property located 111 Plastow Road, tax map 28, lot 16, in the C1 zoning district as complete. Do we have a second?
Can I ask a question before we second or?
You've seconded, then we can have discussion.
Yeah,
Okay, but I think there's a motion on the table.
but then we're going to vote on the motion and then have a discussion?
We're going to second it, then have discussion, and then vote on the motion.
Okay, I just want to,
Right, so,
all right. Then I'll second.
all right.
I already put you down for it. You had to.
Yeah.
I was told they pulled this back.
Well, what to say, so Dan seconded it. So the motion on the table is whether or not to accept the application is
Oh,
complete.
yeah,
So now,
that's fine.
we can discuss whatever we want.
Yeah, I was just talking to
with respect
Dee
the
the other day and she
completeness
said they pulled this back for something. They weren't ready for
Yep.
something. Is that true?
Can
I
I,
want to continue it. So this has to be accepted as complete before it can be
That's
continued.
absolutely fine.
Because a lot of stuff came in on the KNA report
No,
that we're kind of late, so they haven't had a chance to deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Nope,
I
that's fine.
figured that.
Mr. Kane.
there's no way we can accept this as complete. With all of everything that's sitting here, it's an incomplete application. I don't even have the applicant in front. You know, and here's the consequences. And hey, they've already been in here for conceptual. I think it's a great concept, if you will. I believe I said that. But this application is not complete, and we're going to create, you know, by accepting it as complete, we
else can-
shortened our response period by 30 days. So we've taken a 65-day and made it 35 days. Okay? Because we won't act on this until, we won't even open a public hearing until the middle of June.
Right, 18.
So in terms of, you know, so there are
And-
two things.
Well,
that are-
and just let me finish, there's 3 pages
Get my gavel in a
of
minute.
stuff that has to be done. And we just got Steve Keach's report. I just saw it when I walked in. It was dated as of yesterday, I believe, right? So I think it's unfair to us, it's unfair to the applicant, where we've just hadn't even had a chance to review the detail.
Mhm.
And I don't want to create a precedent where we're accepting applications, you know, where there is a question of completeness. And also, I mean, I read in the staff report that somehow the burden of renoticing is on us. We didn't ask to pull the
Right.
application, the applicant did. And when you file an application, you provide money to the town for the town to notice the abutters.
So that's for one notice.
Yeah, so why would, yeah, but there's no application here in front of us, really. That's what
Have to
the
be
argument is.
renoticed.
All right, so,
I know we don't pay for renotice, you know, but this isn't,
all right, so if the application were for purposes of, I mean, in terms of it coming in to the planning department, there's a clock, I believe,
21 days.
21 days. All right. So in some sense, you know, if it's being pushed in front of us to accept it as complete, you know, with all the attendant questions that come with
21
that,
days.
then, you know, they're on our clock in essence. All right. Which is, that's a 90-day clock.
65 days.
65.
65.
All right. So 65. So, you know, I guess I'm of a,
Well, it's not complete. That's to be honest. It really isn't. And that's what we're supposed to be voting on.
that's correct.
Yeah, if this was like close and you know, it probably pushes me to accept it, but I don't think it's close. So.
Any other discussion on it, on the completeness of the application before us? All right, because I guess in terms of, you know, completeness of what, and they would be on our clock, and you're still, you know, whatever needs to be resolved
I really don't know.
back and forth between, you know, the planning department, you know, and then for this board to review, you know, if the clock did expire, then we'd be voting on whether or not, you know, what we have in front of us, unless there's an extension granted, you know, to the board to consider that. So, what would the ramifications be other than having to refile it and renotice?
I mean,
It would
they've
start over.
requested the extension, so it's not like they're getting jammed on something, you know. They want the time to adequately address all of the concerns raised by staff. And I'm assuming they just got Steve Keach's info to resolve that. I just think you end up with a better, more complete application that can be addressed pretty quickly. I mean, given that they've already been in as conceptual, accepting this as complete, to me, starts to establish a precedent that I don't think we want to establish.
All right.
Agreed.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
I don't think there's any harm here in not accepting this
No.
as complete, put it this way, to the applicant.
All right, so I'm going to call the vote. All in favor of accepting the application as complete? Against? Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstain? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Yeah, so 0, 5, 0. So the application not to accept it is complete.
Nolan,
Mr. Chair. I'm going to be asked to be excused. You have quorum. If I have an emergency work call, I'm sorry that interrupted the meeting. I'm sorry about that. But since you have quorum here, I don't think it's as much of an issue, and I would like to respond to it.
All right, take care of business.
Yeah.
yes, no.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Sorry about that.
Look,
Good luck.
All right. Good luck.
Good luck.
All right. So next agenda item, I guess a lot of this is going to fall under old business or even new business. So Karen, you had some information with respect to,
Yeah, when I should have
Master
done
plan
this last
questions.
meeting, but since I wasn't here, I couldn't do it. What we had done on this committee, now Tim and, yep, they're gone.
which committee?
This was the committee that started a long time ago on the master plan. We were trying to find what other towns were doing and what we could use their information to help us form our committees and stuff. So, started out with Epping and that area up there. Have gotten absolutely no help whatsoever. I've been up there, have called, gotten absolutely nothing. So I went to Wyndham, on the other side, and I got unbelievable amount of information on that. And that's what's in your little folder here. And I will have Kingston, which was the other one I did, on the other side of us, which I'll have that for next meeting. As you'll see what I did for each one, so it was a lot of work, but. So if we just want to look at it real quick, and then you can look at it when you go home further, this is what I did. I took their head pages from their town report, just so you could see all the committees and what they are doing. And if you see the planning board, yes, they do have quite a few members. And for the, they have a historic commission, and they have everything, but just to show, though, that their population, which I could not believe, is up to 17,300.
Yep.
We were, my daughter was teaching in Golden Brook there years ago, and the kids were the first ones to go through the high school. It was brand new.
Do you have more copies of that? I'm blind.
I can make them. I will make them for you.
Thank you.
I'll make all three. Yes. I'm sorry, Charlene. No, I definitely will.
I won't be able to include them in the minutes if I don't.
Huh?
I won't be able to include them with the minutes if I don't.
Oh,
have
don't worry. I did that. They all have to go home and look at these actually.
All right. So this is,
Office have them?
So I will give them.
Okay, very good. Great, thank you.
so this is in keeping with the idea that, with respect to our master plan,
Yeah, well, because I'll show you why.
Yeah, it's not happening tonight. Just happened now, sorry. So we're not going to be discussing it.
Sorry. Okay. But I was surprised at this. You know how we just got voting for it should be an election? God, I'm losing my words here now. on both the planning board and the ZBA.
Yes.
So if you look down here, how to volunteer for all these groups.
Which
Elected-
document are you looking at?
Okay, we're at the first one, first folder. First folder is just information on the town, actually, town officials,
Okay.
first one. And at the bottom, it says, elected volunteer positions include selectmen, planning board, zoning board of adjustment, town moderator, and trustees of the cemeteries. These were all, they're elected. So that's why, if you look back, you'll see how many they've got on both committees. I just thought it was interesting to look at this, you know, just to have it on hand for each town that we do, okay? So we can just skip over that right away, but I was so thrilled when I saw that. Then Kingston, the one that I am working on, and I'll bring those in the next time, same thing, elected positions are, and I don't think we have anything like that in our town report. But anyway, so they also have elected positions. Both
Again,
planning board.
for planning and zoning.
And zoning, yep.
All right.
So, all right, so we'll start with the master plan for Wyndham. That's the second group of papers, which is a table of contents. This is a list of all the stuff they have in their town report and what they've reported on. And this is the introduction to the master plan. And this is going to also cover the part that we're interested in, economic development, which is your second set of pages, which is very interesting, it really was. But this is something for you to read, you know, later. But the Wyndham Master Plan was just completed, 2023. They also do theirs every 5 years. We have kind of slipped on ours. So I asked him if he could send me this stuff, the actual master plan that they did on economic development. That's what the third section of pages are. So you can see how they did theirs, but it just gives you some ideas and what they really went through. So they do every 5 years, and we'll not be working on this one now till 28. But this was all completed, what they just did. I thought that was good.
Excellent.
So that's stuff for you to just read over, because I'm going to do the same thing with Kingston. They finally gave me their final stuff, and I had to wait for all the stuff to come in. So I just wanted you to have it so that we could start looking at it and start planning ourselves.
All right. No, that's excellent. And we should probably, you know, again, that type of methodology where, since we are looking at the economic development portion of the master
Yeah,
plan.
whichever part you want. If you want more parts, I will get more parts for you. But I thought the economic development was the one you assigned us to look at.
I think that's conceptually what we're looking at. But again, it's, you know, if we have if we have a methodology down
Yep.
with respect to,
Then we can
maybe
start
we want to
looking at
do
others.
research, then, you know, we're not reinventing the wheel each time we're
Right, exactly.
doing it. So
I thought it was pretty good for Wyndham. They did a good job.
how many people are in Wyndham? Do we know?
17,000.
17,000.
Yeah, they've almost paid
Yeah,
2,000
it's grown quite a bit. I used to live there back in like, I don't know, I think
I think
This is where my
1989
daughter
or
was
1990.
teaching back there, way back.
I think in
and-
the
There was like
last-
nobody there.
The last 20 years, it might be one of the fastest growing.
Oh, it is definitely fastest growing. That, I talked to
communities
the guy,
in,
and it was just
yeah.
unbelievable what we had to do.
Yep.
But,
we were probably the same size, maybe like 20,
we were,
25
that's
years
what he
ago.
said. That's what he said to me.
Not
He
now.
says, you know, you guys are the same. We both
We
built
haven't-
high schools the same
We haven't
time.
grown virtually at all.
High schools the
in the
same
No
time.
last
place
20
to
years.
grow.
Yeah. No, but that's not a criticism. That's
No,
just,
no, not taking it
just,
like that.
it's just, our population has remained fairly stagnant
Yes,
in
yes,
the last 20 years.
yes.
20 years ago, Wyndham had a lot of open space.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
They had a
But I
lot.
think the main idea was that you have to downsize what they did. But I just wanted you to show what they did as a group.
We could probably handrail some of
And
it
just-
or use it
right.
as an
But
opportunity.
it does tell you what the work they did and how they did it. So I just thought you just downsize it, that's all.
Right.
And Kingston is exactly ours, same population. So that one should be very interesting to
Cool beans.
see. Not to-
Thank you.
So, anyway, that's it.
And just maybe to riff off that a little bit, I distributed, again, a letter from our RPC.
Yes.
this came in just like maybe a couple hours ago. So, I mean, that's why I decided that, we'll print it out at least.
Ink's still wet.
So I had a meeting with RPC, one of his associates, and then also the town manager. And we basically wanted to discuss about, the possibility of engaging with RPC, a circuit rider of some kind, because at last meeting, there was sort of questions that there might be questions of budget that might culminate in probably in around July, because I think the town is tasked with finding a certain amount of money to fund a statistical reset, I think, from a tax perspective. So, but I felt that we needed to make the argument that the planning board does need to continue with a relationship with RPC. So basically, this is a just sort of a working document that we got from RPC, kind of handrails the relationship that they have with Atkinson right now. And it's basically structured around, you have a circuit rider. Circuit rider has his costs a certain amount per hour. You have a certain amount of money, whatever we're budgeting for. And, and then you contract for the services and scope of work. All right. So we agreed that we would kind of have further discussions on this. But again, I would like the board at least to take a look at this.
Yep.
If there are any suggestions, there was some questions about, do we want a circuit rider coming to one of our workshops, let's say. And, if such, we can have them come to the workshops. There was a question put to me whether or not there was some flexibility with respect to workshops. Do they always have to be done on the third week of the month? I think with sufficient notice or anything like that, we can make accommodations if it makes sense to do that. Having a circuit rider come and sit in on a particular application is something that was discussed. The town is looking at potential staff changes with retirements, maybe in the planning department. So, whether or not like a site plan review might be something that doesn't need to be done on site with respect to applications. That's something that
How do we do
RPC.
that? Right.
That RPC said that they could provide some sort of backstopping support to that, and I thought that was a good idea that was suggested. And then also, in terms of again, if they were to sit in on our workshops, providing sort of insight as to how best to proceed with master plan type development, suggestions. To make our time a little more profitable. So when you have an opportunity, take a look at that. I would like to, at some point, circle back and, maybe if the town manager and such, and say that, where do we stand with this in light of, budget concerns?
Could you ask, like our town manager, or I don't know who, but what about finding us applicants? A long time ago, they did. They were in on, what was it we were looking for? It was some position. I can't remember, but they were willing to help us. They had some ideas where to look and who to get in touch with, and then they got out of that. So I don't know if getting back into this.
RPC?
Yes, it was RPC.
I mean, we can always.
Tim would remember. I've got to ask Tim it, but yeah, they were definitely involved in helping with applicants. Even giving some ideas that these people had done this before and were good at it, and maybe
Yeah, I mean, it's,
suggestions.
I think at one point we had talked about something about like, is there a role for some sort of marketing of Plastown? What would that mean?
Right. Exactly.
Whether or not that's an RPC role, I don't know. But
Well, it's helping finding positions that are missing right now. Like you're going right straight down from building inspector down to.
Oh, okay. I mean, using them
Those
as
positions.
okay. So you're not talking about applications. You're talking about if there were
No, they
open.
can suggest people, and they used to suggest what we could do for a write out, you know, this is what we're interested in, do such and such a thing. They would help get it around.
Well, the closer we stay to RPC, the more we'll get that kind of activity, you
Right.
know? So this,
They used to
because of
do
the
that.
staff changes, you know, we've got a little bit of a disconnect. I mean, we're obviously still involved, we're still members, but the more we can close that gap, the more
that's what
likely
they
we
said they
can
would help
access
with.
their knowledge base.
Yeah, and I think that's doubly why something like this is important.
Right,
You know, whether or
exactly.
not, I mean, I think we should have a continuing relationship with them, and
Yep.
and if you have that relationship, then the sorts of benefits that would
Could
come
come
with
from it.
because you're
Right.
interacting with them.
Right.
You know, that's one of those intangibles, I guess, that, you know, if you're not talking to them, then you can't.
No,
have
you're
a
not gonna get
suggestion.
anything back. No, exactly.
And again, I look at it this way too, that if we had grant opportunities that present themselves to us, whether or not, you know, I think I'm open conceptually to anything grant-wise that would come down that would be related to planning. You know, just for the reason that, you know, if nothing comes of it per se associated with the grant, again, the relationship is being cultivated. So I look at it that way. So take a look at it. If you have any suggestions, or if you say that, you know, something that looks like, you know, this, I heard some other town had something, an a la carte type service that they contracted with that would be really great to have for Plastow, then feel free to pass that on.
Yep.
And I guess closing the loop on master plan, I did ask the RPC about where they stood with respect to incorporating the changes that we did for housing, because I believe there were issues with formatting and software, and we had asked RPC to do that. I was told that those should be being completed, and they've been remitted back to Plastow. So once we can confirm that, once we can see it, then, you know, we'll probably look for it out on the Plastow town page, right? So, anything else on master plan?
No, I just want to be sure that that's something that maybe they could help us with too, rather than going backwards again and doing things that we've done for the last 2
What's
years.
that?
The housing. I really would like to see like an economic development or
Yeah,
whatever.
no, that's
You
it's
know,
fine. But I think
being worked on.
economic development is next on the list that we wanted to
Okay.
look at. So,
Okay,
but I'm just saying conceptually, I don't want to say no to things if there are grant opportunities, you know, so
Yeah.
I'm just putting that out there. Anyone else? All right. Last meeting that we had rules and procedures.
oh, yeah.
Are there, you know, they were, you know, we had those, I didn't see anything or hear anything from staff about, you know, anyone having input or anything like that in the way of changes and things like that, or objections and such.
Right.
So, I mean, if they
Yes.
weren't, I think, I mean, at some point, you know,
Are you gonna go
I'm
back
looking
over them
to-
again? No.
at some point, I'm looking
Ready to
to
go to
have those sent to legal for review. You know, so the idea that, you know, it shouldn't be a continuous editing session.
Okay.
They're ready to go to council.
Yeah.
So my vote is we send them off.
So do we want to take a
Now, do
formal?
we ever get copies of that corrected? You know, this is the old copies.
No, we had sent out, there's the final copy, if you
Right.
will.
Okay.
That's going to go to council. I haven't made any changes to the last.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, I just wanted to know if this was any good anymore.
All
Okay.
right, so
I
is that,
think it was in last meeting's meeting materials. This is the final version,
Oh, well, how do I get that?
or the
I
final
wasn't-
draft version.
you
I
can,
wasn't
I
here.
think it went into your email. I think it went out to you,
yeah, be in the
that meeting
emails.
materials. I'll resend it to you, Karen, or I'll resend it to the chair and the chair can send it out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So from a mechanics perspective, you know, we want, you know, we have them, we want them to go for review. Then do we when they come back from review, I would assume that's when we would take a vote to accept them and then schedule the public hearing.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I think the plan is let's see what we get back from council.
Right.
To the extent that, you know, we need to make changes, we'll make, you know,
All right.
we'll all concur or not to make them. And then from that point, then we have to go to a public hearing.
Any questions or comment on that timeline or algorithm? All right, do we need to take a vote on it, or is that just something I could say that we're going to send to legal for review?
We do the same thing with zoning ordinances. We just send them,
All right,
you know.
Fair
Our actionable item will be to approve
Approve
them
when
for
we
a
have that
public
hearing.
hearing.
Right.
all right.
The other thing I wanted to discuss, but probably not on the air,
Yeah, we can,
do that afterwards.
yeah, I mean, because I think,
I have to have your all approval, remember?
right, at some point, there'll be, at some point, the board will recommend some sort of acceptance of,
Well, I was going to
Something.
ask after the meeting was over.
so I think that's,
Okay.
at some point, that you would have to make approach the board formally with
Okay.
X, Y, and Z. And then we'd take action on something like that. Anyone else have anything for new business, old business? I didn't necessarily envision a lot tonight beyond the application and some of this administrative stuff.
The only thing, while at least the members of the zoning subcommittee are here, we should have a meeting promptly to at least go over kind of the topics, narrow them down, and then start the dialogue with the board.
All right.
And that's me, you, and Richard.
Richard and
Dan.
Dan. So I guess there's a couple dates, maybe. I don't know if did you have, which dates were they, do you think, Dan? I'm available up until mid-July.
Yeah, no, I think I basically had Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the week after. Figured
Yeah, I'm available those days. No problem.
we'll do it right
I
at the.
was supposed to fly out to Florida tomorrow morning, but I postponed it.
For the subcommittee, right?
Of course.
Okay, all right,
Of
good.
course.
Because the weather's so much better here.
Oh, my God. This is horrible.
Trust me.
My wife's leaving at 4
95
o'clock in the
down
morning. She'll be at 88 degrees by 10 o'clock in the morning. And we're in October.
Yeah. All right, we can pick if those dates work, we'll pick one.
Yeah, any of those dates are good for me.
Yeah, fine.
If they're good for you, then.
Wednesdays are a little tough midday. I don't know what time you're looking at.
I usually try to do it like 2:00 in the afternoon.
Don't do Wednesday then.
Okay, so.
Pick any other day.
Why don't we shoot from a week from Tuesday? How's that?
Tuesday's fine.
Yeah,
Tuesdays are fine.
2:00, and I'll take care of the notice.
Yeah, just zap me over and let me know what you want to do,
Yeah.
where you want to do it.
And
Excellent.
I'm just going to resend all the stuff we have so we can look at it ahead of time.
Yeah. Of course.
And then last meeting, we decide we're going to get this to 5. We're going
Okay.
to use topical descriptions. We're going to do the whole thing. It's likely we're probably going to try, there's going to be a bunch of stuff that's already been passed the House. The governor hasn't signed it yet. That's going to affect our zoning, like
Right.
big time.
Okay.
My suggestion, just conceptually think of it, is we'll probably deal with those in some sort of,
So is this going to come from you or from Dee?
it's coming from the state, but I'll.
I mean, the email I'm going to get, who's it
It's coming from me.
Okay. Okay.
And it will, but probably deal with that in some sort of omnibus amendment where we characterize it as these are mandated and then we deal with them. It may deal with different aspects of our ordinance, but we isolate it all in one recommendation. I think it's easy to digest that way.
So either way, I mean, we have some stuff that we want to do as a cleanup, that's, just a low hanging fruit, but also with an eye towards,
Clean up
there's some legislative stuff that'll be coming down, that'll probably preempt what we decide to push out to
And this,
deliberative, right?
there's also a fair amount that's going to affect site plan and subdivision regulations. So,
They've been busy.
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is,
1,300 bills busy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that we just deal with the zoning stuff, but there's
Oh, you wouldn't believe.
a
the
fair amount of other
list,
stuff
everything the
that
Senate passed so far.
I was looking at that was
State.
going,
It's unbelievable.
All right, so we'll look for that.
Send me an email on the date because I have physical therapy 2-3 times a week. So I don't want to, I want to work it out. And I'm just not, I have a whole list of them. I just don't have them in front of me right now.
Fair enough.
Just send me an email when you want to do it and I'll just figure it out.
I'll get that out tonight when I
That's
go,
fine.
when I go home, just to pick the date.
I have a list like this long.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
All right, so anything else from anybody? All right, nothing else, then we'll close this meeting at 7:09. Thank you.